all of my honorable colleagues for their contribution to this debate on the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2020. I want to thank Senator Adams for imploring us to look at what is next and all the critical decisions at the very many different levels that need to be made in order for us to come out of this in a way that we feel so much better than we were doing, and that we're doing so much better than we were when we went in. I want to thank Senator Haynes for reminding us of the distance we've come and of the contribution that's being made by so many. I want to thank Senator Moore for reminding us that social policy and fiscal policy must not only be going down the same road in the same direction, but they must also be traveling in the same vehicle, because in a society such as ours, that there is indeed a need for them to be working hand in hand. I want to thank Senator Springer for his expression of support for all those who are on the front line. I left Senator Boyce for last because he spoke about all hands on deck. He also made a very critical point, and I think it is a point that is worth reiterating at a time like this, where if we look at Barbados' pandemic preparedness plan in the context of all the conversations we were having in here today about and around this bill, we recognize that the continuation of government is one of the stipulations as a part of that. Government cannot function unless there is a parliament. And in fact, if we look at the Constitution 64:2, it says that cabinet shall be the principal instrument of policy, and from legislation must come from policy. And we in this honorable house, we are the makers of legislation. It also speaks to the fact that the cabinet is collectively responsible to the parliament. Therefore, Parliament, and before I get there, let me also mention that in the essential government services, the Governor General is an essential service, the Department of the Governor General. And understand that Parliament is made up of the Governor General, the Senate, and the House of Assembly. Therefore, when we look at the role of Parliament, we recognize that a country cannot function without Parliament, even in a time of crisis. And therefore, it is unfortunate when one of the honorable members of this House would see it fit that doctors are our frontline workers and must be out there, that bus drivers are frontline workers and must be out there, that supermarket workers are on the front line and must be out there. And I can continue that list on and on. Why then must the Parliament of Barbados not also be on the front line? And so I say shame on those parliamentarians, one in particular who sought to walk out of this Parliament on a day when all of us chose to be on the front line for this country. But I say this, Mr. President, simply to close this debate on the Income Tax Amendment Bill, and to ask that with these few words, this bill now be read a second time.
The question is that the bill under consideration, the Income Tax Amendment Bill 2020, be now read a second time. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move that Your Honor do now leave the chair and the Senate resolve itself into committee for the further consideration of this bill.
The question is that I do now leave the chair and the Senate resolve itself into a committee of the whole Senate for the further consideration of the bill before us in committee. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it, and we are now in committee.
The Senate is in committee.
Clauses 1 to 5.
Beg to move that clauses 1 to 5 stand part.
The question is that clauses 1 to 5 stand part. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Clauses 6 to 11.
Beg to move that clauses 6 to 11 stand part.
The question is that clauses 6 to 11 stand part. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Clauses 12 to 14.
Beg to move that clauses 12 to 14 stand part.
The question is that clauses 12 to 14 stand part. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
First schedule.
Beg to move that the first schedule be the first schedule to the bill.
The question is that the first schedule be the first schedule to the bill. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Second schedule.
Beg to move that the second schedule be the second schedule to the bill.
The question is that the second schedule be the second schedule to the bill. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
I beg to move that you now report to His Honor the President the passing of one bill in committee.
The question is that I do now report to His Honor the President the passing of one bill in committee. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Chairman of committee for today's sitting, Senator Robert Rogers, has reported to me the passage of the bill under consideration in committee.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill be now read a third time.
The question is that the bill under consideration be now read a third time. All honorable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill do now pass and be cited as the Income Tax Amendment Act 2020.
The question before us is that the bill under consideration do now pass and be cited as the Income Tax Amendment Act 2020. All honorable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. The bill is now being passed and will be so cited.
Order number 2, sir. In the name of the Honorable Acting Leader of the Senate, to move the second reading of the Exchange Control Amendment Bill 2020.
No, Mr. President, the Exchange Control Amendment Bill before this Honorable House is intended to amend the Principal Exchange Control Act to do a few things. One, to provide for the imposition of a fee on foreign exchange, validate the collection of that fee since 2017, and for other related matters. In introducing this bill, Mr. President, I have to go back before I go forward, and I shall make it a very brief visit. Back in 2017, the then Minister of Finance in the previous government administration announced that there would be imposing a fee on foreign exchange transactions, and that fee would be payable by a person who obtained foreign currency in Barbados in any form from a foreign currency provider, and who, whether in Barbados or outside of Barbados, would purchase foreign currency or goods or services in foreign currency using a credit card, using a debit card, using a prepaid travel card denominated in Barbados dollars and issued in Barbados, and that it would also include wire transfers. Now, the reason given at that time was that there was a decline of foreign exchange to cover Barbados's demand from as far back as 2016 and before, and the then minister thought it necessary to stem that demand, particularly for consumer durables, with the imposition of this 2% commission, which was effective from July 2017. In 2019, our current Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, Economic Affairs and Investment, the Honorable Mia Moore-Motley, in her financial statement and budgetary proposal, thought that she would not want for this Commission on Foreign Exchange to become a hindrance to doing business in Barbados. And at that time, she instituted a $100,000 cap on that foreign exchange fee. At that time also, the current Minister of Finance and our Prime Minister made it possible that persons can open foreign currency denominated bank accounts in financial institutions approved by the central bank in order to hold foreign currency. This bill, sir, remains one of the measures that not simply validates what those fees that have already been collected since 2017, but also it is one way of reducing the demand for foreign exchange at a time when we can least afford to be sending it out of the country. We recognize that we are now in unprecedented times with COVID-19, and there are considerations that may very well have to be made at this time as to how that is done. But that, sir, is a different matter. At this point in time, this is a law that simply validates what has already been, and we will have to put our heads together going forward to see what other measures may have to be put in place to deal with what private sector individuals and Barbados in general is facing going forward. I believe that this is a simple amendment, sir, and I need not go much further. I am sure that those who wish to debate will do so. I therefore, with these few words, beg to move that this bill now be read a second time.
I recognize Senator Frakes.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I will not also try to keep us here longer than we need to be or obstruct government's business. Mr. President, given that this is a retroactive bill, this is something that's already in implementation. This is simply tidying up legislation, and I have no issues with that, and I support the passing of the amendments. But one of the things that we cannot ignore is that our tourism products, like most countries around the world, have experienced a tremendous blow. Coming out of this, we also do not know how tourism will rebound, and we as a country will have to seek to diversify in a very real way now where we seek to get our foreign exchange dollars from. And I'm sure that that is an effort that the government will be working assiduously to put in place very quickly. Sir, one of the other things I know that government has been trying to do and I would like to reiterate it at this point in time, is the ease of doing business in Barbados has to be enhanced. And this is a measure that has been touted very much. And what I would like to say is that we possibly quicken the pace of improving our indices as it relates to doing business, because it now means the point at which our economy either recovers or it doesn't. And I'm also imploring government to hold those accountable who continue to hold back, who continue to refrain from making the necessary changes in the system that are required. The excuses can no longer fly. This is now a moment that we have to get all systems going, and quickly and in an efficient manner, to facilitate business while yet still adhering to the regulations that are in place. So, Mr. President, as I said, I will not obstruct government's business at this point in time. I just wanted to say those few words. And with that, Mr. President, I am obliged to you.
Senator McCarthy.
Mr. President, I want to say thank Senator Driggs for that contribution. And I'd like to move that this bill now be read again a second.
The question is that the bill under discussion be now read a second time. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
President, I'd like to move that Your Honor do now leave the chair and the Senate resolve itself into committee for further consideration of this bill.
The question is that I do now leave the chair and the Senate resolve itself into a committee of the whole Senate for the further consideration of the bill before us in committee. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it, and we are now in committee.
The Senate is in committee.
Clauses 1 to 4.
Beg to move that clauses 1. I beg to move that clauses 1 to 4 stand part.
The question is that clauses 1 to 4 stand part. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Clauses 5 to 8.
I beg to move that clauses 5 to 8 stand part.
The question is that clauses 5 to 8 stand part. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
First schedule.
Beg to move that the first schedule be the first schedule to the bill.
The question is that the first schedule be the first schedule to the bill. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Second schedule.
Beg to move that the second schedule be the second schedule to the bill.
The question is that the second schedule be the second schedule to the bill. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Report.
I beg to move that you now report to His Honor the President the passing of one bill in committee.
The question is that I do now report to His Honor the President the passing of one bill in committee. All honorable senators in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman of committee, Senator Reverend Rogers, has reported to me the passage of the bill under consideration in committee.
Mr. President, I beg to move Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill be now read a third time.
Question is that the bill before us be now read a third time. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. You think the ayes have it.
Mr. President, I beg to move that this bill do now pass and be cited as the Exchange Control Amendment Act 2020.
The question is that the bill under consideration do now pass and be so cited. That is as the Exchange Control Amendment Act 2020.
Mr. President, as I get ready to move for the adjournment of this particular sit-in, I beg your indulgence simply to thank the members of this honorable chambers, the frontline parliamentarians, for coming out today like the rest of the frontline workers of Barbados. And I wish to inform that the Clerk of Parliament has informed that we are looking at alternative ways of meeting at a time like this, and the necessary discussions are taking place at the right levels to ensure that we have an alternative to meeting like this at the appropriate time. And at that time, I'm sure that the Clerk of Parliament and the team will inform us of what those alternatives are. And so looking forward to another time when we may be meeting differently, we don't know. I now beg to move that we adjourn. Sine die.
We live in hope and not in fear. The question is that this session be now adjourned before today appointed. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it, and we now stand adjourned until we have been told when next we'll meet.